Jake Fox joins us on the Yash and Zach Sports Hour. He's the beat reporter for the Ball State football team from the Daily News. Thanks for joining us, Jake.
Yeah, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, glad to have you on again, Jake.
Yeah, thanks.
So, Jake, the Cardinals are now eliminated from a bowl bid with the 4-7 record and the loss to Toledo. Has this loss hurt them more than the others? With such a great start to the season, they started off 3-1 in non-conference play.
I mean, I think every loss stings. This one probably a little bit more because now, instead of next week playing for a bowl berth, you're playing just one more game, and they know it's going to be their last game. I talked to Sean Wiggins, senior linebacker, after the game, and obviously he was pretty upset, and he said, I mean, every loss stings, but particularly this one. But in terms of hurting them for this last game, it's kind of encouraging because, I mean, I don't think they're too down to the point where this last game doesn't matter to them. I think they're actually fired up and know now that, okay, this is the last game for our seniors. They have 23 seniors. This is the last game for our seniors, so let's go out and play as hard as we can to try to get them a win. So, obviously it stings. I mean, they're eliminated from bowl eligibility, so they know it's going to be the last one, but I don't think they're down to the point where they're just going to quit on the rest of the year.
Mm-hmm. And talking about that Toledo game last Wednesday, this past Wednesday, they went into the Glass Bowl. It was a fog-filled event. There was fog everywhere. I was looking on the Ball State Football's Twitter. I actually saw on your Twitter you posted a couple pictures, and Colin Grills, the photo guy for the Daily News, his Twitter was pictures of fog at the Glass Bowl. And in a game where the visibility was so low, I mean, James Gilbert he had 11 carries for 19 yards. He was held in check by that Toledo defense. So he was dealing with an injury before that. But do you think that the weather had anything to do with it, or do you think the injury that he was dealing with had anything to do with him being so ineffective during that game?
Yeah, it's kind of funny you ask. I asked Coach New about that today at his weekly press conference. I brought up Gilbert and kind of how this was the first game that I felt that he couldn't get anything going. I mean, Toledo really did a nice job of bottling him up for the whole game. A lot of tackles for loss. Mm-hmm. Yes, I think part of it is due to the fact that he was probably a little limited in practice, and I doubt he was 100%. I mean, he missed the whole second half of the game against Eastern the week before that. So I'm sure some of that was due to the fact that he might have been a little bit hurt still. But Coach New actually talked about, I mean, Toledo is a good team, and their defensive line played really well. They controlled the line of scrimmage, and they got a lot of push, not only on the run, but they actually got quite a bit of pressure on Neal, too, throughout the game. So, I mean, while I think part of it could have had to do with the injury, I feel like more of it was just Toledo kind of forcing their will on the defensive end. They got a lot of penetration, so there wasn't really much Gilbert could do. Riley was really the only one that was effective in the ground game. He had 85 yards on 14 carries, but a lot of those, I mean, the defense is expecting pass, so if it's not there, Riley can drop it and run, but I think it was just more Toledo.
Mm-hmm. And Riley Neal, you mentioned Riley Neal there, and this was the first game where I thought he had a really good game against Toledo. He was 33 for 49 with 260 yards and 2 touchdowns, and and his passing numbers have gotten better over the last couple of weeks. So he also leads the team again in rushing. He also led the team in rushing, like you mentioned, against Toledo. Mm-hmm. So what's changed for Riley Neal the last 2 weeks?
I think the biggest thing is just, you mentioned the decision making. I mean, the past 2 weeks I felt like he's kind of stopped forcing balls. He didn't have any turnovers against Toledo, and that's something that's obviously been a huge problem for him all season. It's just forcing balls into coverage, maybe looking at one receiver a little bit too long. But I felt like against Toledo, he really kind of, if it wasn't there, he would tuck it and run. But he made a lot of good decisions throwing the ball too. I mean, there was one play in particular that I remember. It was a deep ball. It fell incomplete, but the week before that, he underthrew it a little bit, and it got picked off on a deep throw to Mabon. But in this week, I felt like he made that throw. He threw it up to where only his receiver could get it. So in that regard, I feel like he made better decisions that way. And I think he's just playing with more confidence now. He threw for a lot of yards against Eastern Michigan the week before too. So I think he's just kind of getting more comfortable now. He missed that one game due to injury, and I think now he's back. And it's kind of encouraging if you're a Ball State fan, to see him playing better to end the season after the rough start.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that is very encouraging, especially going into 2017.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Riley has improved in the last few weeks, as we have been mentioning. However, overall, his season's been roughly shaky for a sophomore year. And there's been a few 3-star recruits we've been hearing coming out of the woodwork for Ball State, which is good news for the university. They could use some higher talent. One of them being a quarterback out of California named Tyler Vanderwall. And he'll be joining the team next year. With that in mind, with Riley's play this year and the caliber that Tyler Vanderwall might present to the team and the fact that New recruited him in his system, how secure do you think Riley's job will be?
For me, I think even though Riley's kind of had a tough year, I think the fact that he's played better recently, I think he'll end up coming into next season as the starter. I mean, he's a sophomore. He's played well in games, and he's won some games.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it's a job that he'll have, and I think it's his to lose. Obviously, it's encouraging that they're getting a 3-star recruit. That's good for the program and everything of that nature. And I know New, obviously, recruited him, so he thinks highly of him. But I think New likes Riley too. Riley, if you really think about it, Riley's got a lot of the tools that you want in a college quarterback. I mean, he's tall, he's 6'5", he can tuck it and run, as we saw the other night. He can make the throws, and he's won games. So I think with another offseason this year, I don't know. You can just chalk it up to maybe the pressure of coming in as the starter, or the fact that, he's still pretty young. He has a lot of starting experience, but he's still just a sophomore. So you got to think those turnovers will get better at some point. You saw that the other night. He didn't play bad or anything.
Oh, yeah.
I think he'll come into next season as the starter, but it'll be interesting to see how that kid progresses when he gets here.
Yeah, good observation. I mean, that's considering, too, James Gilbert also being a sophomore. Mm-hmm. So, both of them could possibly develop a chemistry on that team.
Yeah, that whole offense, is still pretty young for the most part. Neal just a sophomore. Gilbert's a sophomore. They're going to lose Maybon, but Lacanari is back as a junior or as a senior next year, and Damon Hazleton Jr. He's a true freshman that's made a pretty big impact in the passing game. He had 12 catches for 102 the other night, so he's a big body, and I think he'll play a huge role next year, be their top receiver. So that whole offense, I think, has a chance to grow if they stay together, and I think it'll be fine moving forward.
Yeah, keeping that young offense in mind as we look forward to the finale in Miami of Ohio. What is Coach New looking for in these Cardinals for this game? Is this just a preview what we want to see for the team next year to start building on some momentum, just end the year on a strong note, get 2017 rolling off like 2016 began?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. He talks about, obviously they want to see or send the seniors out in the right manner with a win, and I think he has confidence that his younger guys will play hard and play to get that done in the last week. As far as looking forward to next year goes, he doesn't look at that too often. I asked him today, if he's going to look at doing anything different against Miami or if he's going to stick to the same formula they have all year. And he said, you change the game plan every week based on the opponent you're playing. But then again, you got to stay true to yourself. So I think they're going to kind of stay with what they've been doing all year, look to run the ball first to set up the passing game, and I think they're just going to game plan to beat Miami. I don't think that Miami's a good team. They won 5 in a row, so I think they need to do. They're obviously going to have to prepare and look to beat a really good team next week. So,
all right, my final question I have for you, and what I think a few people would like to hear, if you could give Coach New a letter grade for this first season, it's been a bit shaky, but comparing first seasons to some of these other coaches that have come into college, what letter grade would you give Coach New for this year?
That's pretty tough. From covering the team all season, I would say I would give him a B- maybe. I can't give him an A because they've only won 4 games and they're 4-7. But I also think I think he's done a lot of good things. A new coach, and he brought almost an entirely new staff with him. So you got to get all the players to buy into your new system and kind of on a personal level as well, because they didn't know him coming into this year. They were used to Pete Limbo and his staff. So I think a lot of the players really like New. I think he's got them set up for success in the future, and he knows it's a process. He knew he knew coming in it wasn't going to all happen in 1 year. So they've already improved their record from last year. They had a good non-conference schedule, went 3-1. I mean, the opponents weren't overly strong, but still. So I think he's done a lot of good things. I like the schemes that he brought with him. He wants to play fast on offense, and he's a former quarterback and a quarterback's coach. So in terms of the overall development of Riley, I think that'll get better moving forward. But I think he's done a lot of good things. I like the staff he's brought in, a lot of former players and guys that have done it at different levels. So in his first year, I would say overall, I mean, looking back, they were 3-1, so it's a little hard to kind of believe that they didn't make a bowl game or make a run at a bowl game. But in terms of what he's done, I can't say a lot of bad things about it because I think he's done a pretty good job.
All right, good observation.
Yeah. Well, Jake, we thank you for joining us on the Yash and Zach Sports Hour. Thank you for giving your insight.
Yeah, thanks again for having me.
Yeah,
Anytime, guys.
always a pleasure to have you on,
Yeah,
Jake.
appreciate it.
Always.
Yeah.